Warning: the Chaotic Culture Podcast is a program for mature audiences. The language and content presented in this podcast is of a mature nature that some audiences may not find suitable. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Embrace the culture, blaze the doja, grab your loved ones and bring them closer. Extra, extra, read the poster, the KKP is taking over. Sleeping on me, better smell the Folgers. I've been razor sharp since the Motorola. Off for O, like the cover Oprah. Popping bottles, feet all in the sofa. It's a celebration, though the times is hard. It's raining blessings, give it up to God. Chaotic culture, the greatest pod. With Ked the Pro, the one in charge. But it's a celebration, times is hard. It's raining blessings, give it up to God. Chaotic culture, the greatest pod. With Ked the Pro, the one in charge.
We're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. If you joined me last week for our 1-year anniversary episode, I greatly appreciate it. Y'all don't know how much it means to me to achieve 1-year status. Like, that's a milestone. I don't care what nobody say. Like, I didn't know what to expect when starting this podcast. I didn't know what would come of it when actually beginning this platform. But now that I'm a year into it, I've learned so much, I've grown so much, and this podcast is going to continue to thrive. So thank you once again for joining me. If this is your first time joining me today, I greatly appreciate you. I welcome you with open arms. Just please be in mind, of course, I'm not going to hold my tongue. I just have to throw that discourse in there because this kind of platform is used for my thoughts and, of course, the thoughts of my co-hosts. And if you listen to the last episode, you'll know that, of course, some things may or may not be politically correct, but, you have the right to challenge it. And, of course, if you're proven right as far as your thoughts or opinions, then I just have to live with that. But that being said, this is going to be another solo DOLO episode, and I promise I'm not going to keep y'all long because I really don't have that much to talk about this week, but I'm going to try and get through it. I'm not going to say that I'm not feeling the best. I'm not sick or anything. It just, I feel exhausted. And it's not just from doing the podcast. It's from my actual job because now I am back into rental. And with me being in rental, being back on the rental side, it really just, and ignore that my roommate just came back. But, with me just being back into the rental side of my job, it has, of course, forced me to wake up at the crack of dawn again. And my body is not used to that. So I just have to, I have to readjust. And getting up at like 5:30, 5:45, 6 o'clock. I don't care how used to it you are. Nobody is going to be that active and ready to go gung-ho into work when waking up at that time. I just don't see it. For those of y'all who are waking up at like 4:30 and you're not military, man, that's maniac behavior. I'm sorry. That is maniac behavior. Y'all know I cannot do it. I could not. So anyway, guys, if you don't know who I am by now, I am the podcast creator and the main host of this show, Ked the Pro, aka the Calculator Millennial, aka the Cutlass Diamond.
Because if not, don't be pushing on my buttons in my goodness unless you couldn't.
Live from the 7-5, but the 843 is me doing it big once again from my couch at my home in the middle of Hampton, Virginia. So my co-hosts aren't here today. Of course, we've had some schedule conflicts. Obviously, my boy Law had to work. He will not be available today to record. I don't know where Nasa is. I just don't. She hadn't texted me. She hadn't said anything. Probably out, working as well. And obviously with that, I mean, I can only do but so much. So yeah, it is what it is at that point. But yeah, that's where we are. So today is going to be another solo episode. It's going to be quick. Yeah, I don't think there is anything else I can think of. Hopefully by next week we'll have a little special episode for you. I am going to have a guest next week. Let me get my words clear and concise for everybody. There will be a guest for next week's episode. I'm bringing somebody outside of the norm, outside of my normal friendships, and outside of Hamptonians. It's going to be a really, really special guest. So I hope that you tune in. I hope you're ready for some laughs. I hope you are just ready in general. So first things first, let us get with the update into sports. So as of this podcast, so we all saw that the Lakers got eliminated by the Suns. If you're a Laker hater like me, then that's good news for you. Now, if you one of them Laker fans, I mean, yeah. Say what you want. This will be the first time that LeBron has lost in the first round of the playoffs. That does not diminish him or another GOAT's career. Let's get that in perspective. I hate when people compare to LeBron and Jordan. Please just enjoy the GOATs and the greats as they are playing, man. There are two different eras of basketball, and I wish people would see that, but there always has to be comparisons. You got the super MJ stans, which I admit I'm a very super MJ stan, but I'm a reasonable MJ stan. Like, I give LeBron props for the things that he has done to revolutionize this part of the game as far as basketball is concerned. Yes, we know Jordan is a revolutionary in his era, but we can't take anything away from LeBron. LeBron is great. Whether you consider him the greatest of all time or the second greatest of all time or on your Mount Rushmore, that is completely entirely up to you. Basketball is a very subjective sport as far as, what people consider great. Some people still consider Kareem to be the greatest basketball player. I mean, it's really up to you to decide that. So, yeah. So the Lakers have got eliminated. The Nuggets and the Suns are currently in the Western Conference semis. The Suns are up 1-0. They actually came back and beat the Nuggets. I'm recording this as of June 8th. So they beat them on June 7th in their first game. Chris Paul finally got into a rhythm and ended up having to score 21 points. And I think he had double-digit assists. So I know he had a triple-double in there somewhere probably. Yeah. Definitely shout out to the Suns, man. That's a young team, but that's a hungry team as well. I can see it in their eyes. They want it. But here's the other thing. Can they get past the Nuggets and Jokic? Now, Nikola Jokic just got awarded the MVP of the 2020-2021 season. Regardless of how you feel about Nikola Jokic, I mean, that is what it is, yo. Like, Jokic is a great player. I can't take anything away from that man, too. He carries that team. And look at what the Nuggets have been able to do without Jamal Murray. You got Michael Porter Jr. actually becoming a consistent scorer. I really don't know the Nuggets team like that outside of those two. Aaron Gordon, who now plays for the Nuggets now, they've been doing pretty well as well. So, yeah, I like to see where this goes as far as this game and this series. We'll see what happens in game 2. The Mavericks were bounced by the Clippers in 7 games. It looked kind of bleak for the Clippers, but they refused to die, and that is the benefit of having Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on your team. The Clippers were able to come alive as a team and eliminate them in 7 games. The Clippers will now play the Utah Jazz, and I believe that game starts tonight, and that is as of June 8th. So we will get to see them in action, and we'll see how it goes. It'll be a nice little matchup. I still think that the Clippers will edge out the Jazz, I'm going to say they'll win in 6 or 7. And if the Jazz win, I'm not going to be surprised because the Jazz have a really, really solid fundamental team. Like I said, I think that they're kind of built like the old Spurs. I mean, you got Donovan Mitchell, the dynamic player. You got Rudy Gobert, who is a defensive player of the year. You got Mike Conley, who's actually not playing this game, but should be back, hopefully within the next game or so. But yeah, like that Jazz team is really, really fundamentally sound, and whether you see them as boring or not, that's on you. I think that they're a really great team, so it'll be interesting to see them match up against the Clippers. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if Ty Lue makes any adjustments to his roster in order to combat the dynamic play of Donovan Mitchell in that squad. So we'll see. We'll see. Shout out to them. The Clippers are the only remaining LA team, and I know my Lakers fans are heated. If the Clippers get to the finals and they actually win the entire thing, ooh, them Lakers fans are going to be mad. I don't care what y'all say. Y'all can bounce around and say, oh, we got 17 and they finally got 1. It don't matter. You are going to be pissed if the Clippers win a championship while y'all were sitting at home on the couch, eliminated in the first round. Take it how it is. In the Eastern Conference, we have the Brooklyn Nets versus the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Milwaukee Bucks got slaughtered in the last couple of games. Man, they are in 2 games. The Nets are up 2-0, and both games were double-digit blowouts. I mean, not even close. And the sad part is James Harden actually left game 1 with hamstring tightness and didn't even play in game 2. And the Nets still blew them out. Dang near, it got to almost 50 points. They were up almost by 50 points. That's how bad it was. It was that, I don't know what I was watching. Milwaukee just was so outmatched. Giannis Antetokounmpo had the ball in his hands too much. I don't know what my boy Chris Middleton from the 843, I don't know what he was doing, man. And it just seemed like all the role players on the Bucks were just shell-shocked. Like, it was one thing that the ball wasn't falling with them, but as a team, it didn't seem like they made any halftime adjustments. There were no rotations on defense. There were no major substitutions to clamp down on KD or Kyrie. Nothing. I mean, nothing against Mike Budenholzer, but he didn't make any adjustments, and the Bucks got shitted on. Now they get a chance to go back to Milwaukee and perhaps change the series around. Keep in mind, the Clippers had did the same thing in the last series with the Mavs, so anything can happen. Being up 2-0 does not guarantee that you're going to make it out of this series. However, if the Nets win in Milwaukee, the series is over. No matter what. If they get a win in Milwaukee, especially if they win Game 3, it's wraps. Because nobody in the NBA has ever been able to overcome a 3-0 deficit. It's been done in hockey, it's been done in baseball, but it's never been done in the NBA. So there's that. The other series in the Eastern Conference semifinals, if I'm not mistaken, it is the Atlanta Hawks versus the Philadelphia 76ers. And even with Joel Embiid playing, the 76ers played out of their mind last game. Kudos to them. Trae Young is a gem. That is a franchise player. You build franchises around guys like that. Trae Young went stupid. That being said, I still don't see the Hawks winning this series. I still will give the 76ers a chance to make this an actual series and win out eventually. But Doc Rivers has to do something, because Ben Simmons, it's crazy that Ben Simmons is one of your greatest assets, but also your greatest liability in the end, because that boy cannot shoot free throws. And I don't know what it is. How are you a point guard and you can't shoot free throws? Here's another interesting question. How can you shoot a three-pointer and have a high percentage on threes, but then when you get to the line, it's like, come on. And I'm not just talking about Ben Simmons. It's other players. You'd be surprised like how much range that you have, and you're actually sitting here hitting threes, but then you get to the free throw line and you're not averaging over 80%. That's a problem. But that's just me. We'll see how that goes. NBA is looking real nice right now. I'm hoping that these playoff games continue to be lit. I'm definitely going to be paying attention to that. in football news, the Aaron Rodgers debate still continues, but we'll see what happens. I honestly think Green Bay should trade him, or Aaron Rodgers needs to come out and say either trade me or retire, or I retire. Like, just get it over with, man. He gonna keep the Packers in limbo at this rate. Julio Jones went to the Titans for a pack of blacks and a beat CD. Oh my goodness, yo! Like, that is crazy. I definitely thought that, the Falcons would at least get a first rounder out of it, but no, the Titans didn't have to give up anything major as far as draft picks for him. Now, does Julio actually change the dynamic of the Titans? I don't know, because that team is specifically built around Derrick Henry. So it's going to be interesting how that dynamic plays out. I think that now that Tannehill has more options in the passing game, that it will be more difficult, and it actually might open up the lanes more for Derrick Henry. But I don't expect it to be so much of a change on their side of the ball. Now, what the Titans need is some defensive help, but that's another story. I'm just a Steelers fan. Speaking of the Steelers, I did see an article about Mason Rudolph doing something. I don't know what it is. I guess he's going to try and be the starter after Ben retires this year. Boy, fuck out of here. Man, look. Y'all know how I feel about Whack-A-Mole Mason. That's all I'm going to say about that. I can love my Steelers to death, but I am not and never will be a fan of Mason Rudolph. Even if he somehow becomes a great quarterback and they end up winning the Super Bowl, I'm going to look at Mason Rudolph like, and who are you? But that's just me. That's just me. I can't even, that's just how I feel. That's all I got for football right now. I'm pretty sure there's some more news out there, but I'm not about to sit here and go through all 32 teams. So we'll leave it at that. Anime. And I'm also going to tie this in with Smash, Trash, or Pass. So we got to get this off. I saw Sailor Moon Eternal on Netflix this past weekend. I watched both Sailor Moon Eternal movies. Now, for those of you who were Sailor Moon fans in the 90s, just so that we are clear, and if you've never watched Sailor Moon Crystal or the movies, I highly recommend it. The Sailor Moon Crystal series, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon Crystal, actually follows the manga. As opposed to the 90s cartoon, which it had the same villains as the manga, but didn't necessarily follow the story, and gave you the whole monster du jour trope. So if you don't know what the monster du jour trope is, that just pretty much means monster of the day. So yeah, this series actually follows the manga to the letter here, and Sailor Moon Eternal follows the dream arc of the manga here. So for those of you who remember the 90s cartoon, again, just to go back, this is where you get Super Sailor Moon and Super Sailor Chibi Moon, and the Inner Scouts the Inner Guardians are they get their crystal powers. So, and this is where they go up against the Dead Moon Circus, which I can't remember what it was called in the 90s anime or in the 90s dub. I don't remember what it was called, but you had the Dead Moon Circus with Queen Helenia and Zirconia and the Amazon Trio and the Amazon Quartet. Now, I'm not going to spoil the movie here for you. I just encourage you and implore you to watch both movies. It does feel a little rushed, especially that first movie. I will say that the first movie definitely felt rushed because it was trying to get through the character progressions of the Inner Scouts or the Inner Guardians. Definitely tried to tell the story and the conflict going on with how Usagi and Chibiusa felt about Mamoru, and especially with Ami, Rei, Mina, and Makoto, and what internal issues that they were going through when it came to this series. The Dream arc really tries to explore that more, and I still love the Dream arc. I just thought that the first movie was kind of rushed. The second movie was a little more spaced out, and it had a little more room to work with, because at that point you get to see the Outer Guardians come back in and assist with the defeat of the Dead Moon Circus. But it was still, some parts still felt rushed. You know, you're trying to fit what could be a 12-episode series effectively into 2 movies. So there are certain parts, I guess they could believe that since, you know, this particular arc in the manga could be put into a movie, they decided to go ahead and do that. They're not going to be able to do that with arc 5, which is the Stars arc. You're not going to be able to put that into a movie because too much just happens. And I mean too much. Now, if you were a fan of the 90s Sailor Moon anime, they did not dub the 5th season. And because they were afraid of the backlash with their whole being, you know, you have the Sailor Starlights who were pretty much, for lack of a better term, they were transsexual. You know, they were men during the day, but then when it was time to become Sailor Scouts, or when it was time for them to activate their Sailor Guardian powers, they were women. So the 90s anime did not dub the 5th arc. If you're anything like me, I watched the 5th arc on YouTube way back when. And yeah, a lot of stuff happened. But in the manga, this gets dark fast. And you're going to see some personal trauma happen in this arc if it ever gets animated. So there's that. Overall, I do give both of these movies a pass, a 7 out of 10. I wish it wasn't so rushed, but at the same time, it still told the story effectively, and we got a chance to see all of the Sailor Guardians at their full power right before the 5th and final arc of this series. So there's that. There are certain things that you'll see, like the animation for the attacks is top tier, in my opinion. You do not see any of the Sailor Guardians have their transformation pins. Technically, they weren't supposed to have them in the 3rd season of Sailor Moon Crystal, but for whatever reason, the Star Power transformation pins, got rehashed. I don't know why. I don't know, but yeah. So the Outer Senshi do not have the transformation pins for their crystal powers, and neither do the Inner Senshi. So everybody does not have the transformation pins anymore. Of course, Usagi and Chibiusa still have the transformation brooches or lockets, but it's still not. It's definitely. You'll see the changes there. I just implore you to watch, man. I don't want to give too many spoilers here. There are certain, again, rush parts and you'll find out where it is rushed. Certain story arcs are rushed. Even some of the bad guy fights are a bit rushed here. The Amazon trio were, they could have fleshed them out a little more, but it is what it is. That is all that I have for that. When I come back, I'm just going to, first and foremost, I will do the actual drawing for the $100 gift card. And then we're going to wrap up the rest of the conversation with a few things that are going on within the world that you just need to be careful of. Stay tuned. Do not move. I'm coming back. And we are back. So, I'm currently watching the NBA playoffs as we speak right now. Right now, Philadelphia is up on the Atlanta Hawks. So by the time you listen to this episode, that series should be tied 1-1. So it'll be interesting. I think we got a series on our hands. We'll see what happens. Again, I still got Philly winning, but yeah. Back to anime talk. I forgot to update you all on what I have been reading and watching. So of course, I have been watching Vivi. Vivi is some gas. Aesthetically, Vivi is one of the most pleasing to the eye animes that I've seen this spring season, but it's also very, very, very beautiful. Like, very beautiful story, excuse me. I don't mean to be repetitive here, but yeah, the anime artwork is beautiful. The storyline itself is just amazing. Of course, the language and stuff, you have to be really quick because, as my brothers on Mic Check Waifu have said, if you blank, you'll miss something. So you have to consistently pay attention to the dialogue in that anime. Now, I've also been watching Tokyo Revengers, which is also heat. Tokyo Revengers is so good, I had to actually go and pull up the manga. So now I am reading Tokyo Manji Revengers. I could not just sit there on that cliffhanger of the last episode. I had to go and read the manga. So I'm currently in the middle of reading. I don't remember what chapter I'm on, but yeah, I don't want to give any spoilers, but I will say that what I've seen so far is just absolutely, absolutely incredible. As far as anime that I've finished this week I have finished Mushoku Tensei, aka Jobless Reincarnation. Went ahead and finished that one out on my list, so I'm gonna add that to the Watcher 100 anime list that I've been keeping up with. Shout out to, of course, Panda the Don, Scuba Steve, and King Teliano. I'm in the middle. I'm almost done with Yu Yu Hakusho. It's taking me a while, but I'm gonna get through that series. And I still enjoy Yu Yu Hakusho to this very day. I remember this is actually I think this is the final arc that I'm on. This one was the one that I did not watch as much as a kid because I was always a Dark Tournament guy, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't keep up with that last season for whatever reason. I watched it, I just don't remember much of what happens. So I have to go back, and this is why I'm rewatching it. So yeah, shout out to Yu Yu Hakusho. It's still one of my favorite series. And as far as other anime I've been keeping up with, of course, keeping up with Digimon. They finally introduced the purpose of the crest. It only took them all season, but they finally introduced the secret of the crest. So I think every Digidestin is going to figure out what their crest means. I don't know if it's going to take, I don't know how long that's going to take, but I think next episode we are going to get Biomon's Mega Evolution, so we will get to see Phoenixmon, aka Hohomon, and that'll be an interesting episode. I can't wait to watch. Excuse me. Now, I think that is all for my anime updates here, so I'm just going to talk about a few things that I want everybody to be aware of for this upcoming summer. So, if you live in Virginia, of course, the mask mandate has been loosened. So, with that in mind, because the numbers of vaccinations have increased and the number of COVID contractions has decreased. That being said, I don't want people to think that we're coming out of a pandemic. We are still in the middle of a global pandemic. So please, please, please wear your mask or don't wear your mask with caution. Just be careful. I have to make sure that everybody is aware of that. The only times that I don't wear my mask is if I'm at my job. I'm trying to get used to that. But any other public place that I go to, I'm still masked up. Now, it is your choice, by all means, especially if you are vaccinated. I just wanted to let you know that is what I was doing because I have a hard time trusting people, especially with my allergies and my immune system. I am not trying to get sick after I've not been incredibly sick in the last year and a half because of these masks. So, yeah, I have not caught a cold or a sinus infection since January 2020. So, yeah, I'm definitely a proponent of continuing to wear masks. I'm just being a little more cautious, obviously, taking care of my body more, as well as making sure that I practice, clean sanitation, not only with the cars, but with my own hands as well. Please, proper hygiene is important, guys. If you weren't doing that before, I'm hoping you're doing it now. If you're not doing it now, you're just sick. Please, guys, just keep this in mind. We are not out of a pandemic yet. This thing is global, and now the Delta variant that's coming out of India, that one has spread to the UK, and now they're expecting it to be caught in the US somewhere. They're just looking for it. So with this being the most contagious variant and the most deadly, I just ask that you proceed with caution. We are not out of the woods just yet. I'm still going to push the vaccinations regardless of, how you view it and how you want to believe it. I'm just going to say, please be sure that you remain cautious, that you please be safe, and please, if you don't mind, just get vaccinated. If your immune system, of course, allows you to. I have a few friends who, of course, cannot take the vaccine because it will compromise their immune system already, even make it even worse than it already is, especially those who suffer from lupus. I know that the vaccine does not do them any favors at all. To those of you who have an autoimmune disease who cannot take the vaccine, just know that my prayers are with you, and I just hope that you continue good hygiene methods so that way you won't have to worry about catching this terrible, terrible disease. So that's all the time that I'm going to spend on that. Some other things happening in the culture. I've actually been kind of in my own world, trying to make sure I get things together in the middle of this. One thing that I do want to say is to those of you who are, quote unquote, coming after Joe Biden because of, I don't know, for whatever, y'all continuously ask the question, well, what is he doing for black people? All of those executive orders that he wrote, the $1 trillion American Rescue Plan that helped black farmers and tried to ease restrictions on the black housing market, if you were paying attention. Come on, guys, pay attention to this stuff. Biden is literally trying. I'm not saying Biden is perfect. I have plenty of issues with Biden right now. But some of y'all really going too far on Twitter talking about I miss the old guy. No, the flip you don't. You do not miss that guy. You do not miss Trump. Let's not even pretend that if Trump was still president that we would be better off. No, the hell we would not. We would not have gotten that $1 trillion American Rescue Plan. The vaccine rollout would still be a freaking mess. I'm trying not to cuss, guys. I've already said a couple words, but I'm trying not to use the F-bomb. But still, y'all aren't using y'all common sense. Could Biden do more? Yes. Absolutely yes. I'm still a little ticked off that he is not willing to cancel student loans, or at least a good portion of student loans, at least how the progressives want him to do it. I'm still pissed off about that. There are other things that I'm pissed off about him as well, but as far as him doing for black people, just because an Asian hate crime bill was signed that actually helps more police than it does Asian people, were y'all really even paying attention to this bill? Y'all gonna be like, I saw this meme where it has him signing the Asian hate crime bill, and then I believe it is Whoopi Goldberg, Seeley, saying anything for me as far as black people. You don't want that Asian hate crime bill. First and foremost, we already got hate crime bills out for us. Now, if you're wondering about the anti-lynching bill, maybe you need to pay attention to your senators. More specifically, if you live in West Virginia, Joe Manchin, if you're in Arizona, Kristen Sinema, or if you happen to be in Kentucky, where a certain asshole, and I'm not talking about Mitch McConnell, but another certain asshole named Rand Paul, for whatever reason, is so against this anti-lynching bill. If you want these bills passed, look at your congressmen and look at your senators. The president can sign these bills, but it has to get to him. That's one reason why we don't have the For the People Act or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, is because of senators. And then don't use the what I call the excuse. Do not say that because Democrats have a majority that they can get things done. No, the fuck they can't. Excuse my language. It was going to come out. Because you have Joe Manchin, who actually spoke with civil rights leaders, but for whatever reason still opposes the For the People Act. That man is not a Democrat. He claims to be, but he's not. We can't even get him to vote to eliminate the filibuster. So there's no way that this bill can pass unless his mind changes. And even still, we still need to get more people to change their minds. Or you go out and, despite all these voting measures and these stupid ass voting laws that these other states are trying to pass out, is to get out and vote in midterms to be sure that the majority in the House is increased as well as increased in the Senate. Because right now, the House of Representatives only have a 4-seat majority towards Democrats, and in the Senate, I can't even call it a majority for the Democrats, because you got Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, who are just really just making it like, okay, well, we're out of here. You know, we don't have a majority. If push comes to shove and we get them to agree with us, it's a 50-50 split, with Vice President Kamala Harris breaking that tie. But if we can't even get them on board, we can't do ish. The things that would benefit black people the most are being upheld not by Joe Biden. He wants to help us. Look at your senators. Be they Democrat or Republican, check their records. Hear what they're saying. Find out what they're for and what they're against. Especially if you live in Kentucky, especially if you live in Arizona, especially if you live in West Virginia. If we can find an actual Democrat that you know can beat Joe Manchin and actually win his seat, by all means, please get him the F out of here. But if you can't, we have to find other places or other states where, if you are a progressive, where you know that a progressive agenda can get passed, where a progressive senator or congressman can get voted in, so that way the agenda that you're looking for can get passed. All Joe Biden can do is just sign. He can push his ideas, he can push his agenda, and looks like he's going to push his infrastructure agenda anyway by reconciliation, since no matter what they did, the Republicans were just going to say no. But he knew that was going to happen. And that's why he was saving the reconciliation part for later, because he knew, oh, they're not going to say yes no matter what concessions we make. So the moment that they say no to these concessions, we're just going to go with our agenda anyway, at least from that regard. But now, see, that kind of bill can be passed by a 50-50 split with the tiebreaker from the vice president. That kind of bill can. The other ones cannot, unless we eliminate the filibuster. But you got Joe Manchin out here who's just, no, I don't want to do that. It'll destroy America. Boy, try not to cuss. I'm trying not to cuss. The filibuster is nowhere in the United States Constitution. Look it up. It's not in the Constitution at all. It is not a written law. It is just a practice that has been going on since the 19th century that is completely outdated and only benefits those who purport white supremacy. Champions of white supremacy benefit from the filibuster. That's all there is to it. I'm going to leave that alone because I can go into a whole tirade about why the filibuster should be absolutely abolished. I can go into the history of the filibuster and all that. I'm a history nut, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to take up too much of your time anyway. I just thought that I needed to be sure that I get that out there for everyone to understand what is going on. And if you live in Virginia and you're a Democrat, Terry McAuliffe has just won the Democratic nominee to be governor. Now, Terry McAuliffe was governor before in the state of Virginia, but he cannot run consecutive years. The Constitution that was adopted in Virginia in 1830 forbids for governors to run in consecutive terms. Now, they can run a second term, it just would not be consecutive. And considering that this is not consecutive, Terry McAuliffe decided to run again. I honestly wanted the black women to win. That didn't happen. Terry McAuliffe is the nominee, and while I'm still in Virginia, he will get my vote. Because the other option is a Trump supporter, and y'all know how Virginians feel about Trump supporters. So yeah, there's that. So with that in mind, let's move on. We have to do this drawing. So on my social media, we had a little question. Of course, what was the hashtag of the podcast? And that answer was, of course, hashtag embrace the culture. Now, if you had answered this correctly, your name was entered into a drawing. This will be my first ever giveaway. This is my first ever giveaway for this podcast for reaching my 1 year anniversary as a $100 gift card from Amazon. So I'm going to do a random number generator, and we are going to find out who has won out of these four. So just give me one moment while I pull that up. And the winner is entrant number 2. Yay! Let's go! So, entrant number 2, congratulations. You have officially won a gift card courtesy of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. If you are listening to this contestant 2, I will need to get your information so that way I can mail this to you. It should be hopefully within your vicinity within a week. You know, we all know what's going on with the mail system right now. Hopefully we can get that fixed. But yes. Congratulations to contestant number 2. I appreciate that. With that contestant number 2, I'm just going to reveal. It happens to be my boy Neighborhood Mike. Mike has actually been a supporter of the podcast for a while. He is a Hampton graduate, so shout out to my Hampton alum. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I get his information. If he doesn't contact me, of course I'll contact him. I got his social media, so yeah, I'll make sure to hit him up and get that to him. But guys, I appreciate it so much for your participation. Thank you to all those who participated. This is not the end. Of course, we're going to have more giveaways throughout the year. So with that, I think I've held you guys up long enough. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. First and foremost, I got to give my daily shout out. So shout out once again to the Blaname Podcast. I am a Patreon member of the Blaname Podcast. Be sure that you check them out. Shout out to Unbothered Mike and Sine. They are the hosts of the Blaname Podcast. You can catch them just about every Monday with a new episode. They also are one of the podcasts or content creators of Anime After Dark Clubhouse. Please be sure that you join them every Wednesday night, 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time, so that way you can get off your anime hot takes. They do it in conjunction with another podcast that I am about to shout out. Shout out to the Worst Generation Podcast, all 9 of y'all. We appreciate you, your love and support for this podcast, especially to Panda. Her birthday is coming up, and she definitely knows that she's about to be uncut this weekend, so she says. I gotta make sure that Panda gets her birthday gift from her favorite toxic adjacent king. So With that in mind, also shout out to Spicy Lady Entertainment. Please be sure that you check her out. Shout out to Inside the Mind of a Blurred. They have a great team over there, and their podcast is coming a long way as well. Be sure that you check them out. Also check out Mike Check Waifu. Be sure that you check out Polo Born Fly at all social media and King Teliano on all social media. You can follow them at Mike Check Waifu on all social media and on Twitter, more specifically. Definitely shout out to the Truth and Transparency podcast with my boy Malcolm. Be sure that you check him out. Shout out to The Session 757 with Jay and Trey. Be sure that you check them out. Shout out to Mofo Truth with Kia Moffitt. Please be sure that you check her out. That is one brilliant mind. You will not be disappointed listening to these podcasts. If you have any black businesses that you support, please be sure that you email me or send me a message via Instagram or via Twitter. Let me know which black business to support. As I've said, we support black businesses in this space. We support black entrepreneurs. Everything black. So yeah. Also shout out to Black Anime. My boy Aaron doing his thing over there. You can check them out at BLXXK Anime. I believe that's how you spell it. You know, charge it to my head and not to my heart if I messed that up. Shout out to Team God Punch. Especially Pat, aka Gumbo Goon. I know that he is really coming into his own with this podcast, and I swear, boy, if Facebook give me one more alert on this thing. Anyway, definitely shout out to them. I'm trying to get all of my content creators in that I can think of. Shout out to the Culture Marauders. I've definitely been following them. They were one of my first followers when I made my podcast page on Instagram. So definitely shout out to them. Please be sure that you check them out. And I'm going to see if there are any other podcasts that I want to shout out and want you guys to check out. I think, of course, Relatable versus Debatable with Sharvon, Sappy, and Hey Ty. That's the fam. Please be sure that you check them out. I think that is... wait. As well as Inside the Mind of a Blurred, definitely check out Mayonaka Mixer. That is the anime section of Inside the Mind of a Blurred. I'm pretty sure that you will enjoy yourself if you check them out. Just saying. You know, y'all know I'm a big anime head, and I'm going to push the anime agenda. Black people in anime is important. Black people in anime is important. Just thought that you should know that. I think, honestly, that is all that I have for you guys today. So once again, be sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. You can like and follow us on Facebook at Chaotic Culture Podcast. Follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at chaotic_culture. And you can follow us on Instagram at Chaotic Culture Pod. You can follow me, K3D the Pro, on Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow my co-host Law on Instagram at L.JR_96 and on Twitter at Law96_. You can follow my other co-host, Miss Nasa, at _callmenasa on all social media platforms. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. This has been Season 2, Episode 19. Be blessed, be safe. God is love. Deuces.
Look, it's chaos in these streets, so let's talk about it, please. Let's hold some conversation. You see where I'm coming from. Yes, it's so amazing. Go ahead, get comfortable. You can grab a seat, take a load off your feet. Yeah, welcome to the table. We don't tell no lies over here. This ain't no fable. We just live our lives over here. We ain't no angels. We just shine our light over here. We got the power. We just showing love over here. Cause everybody needs some.